Now let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be indirect buffs and nerfs to all the existing roles from beforehand. We're not going to talk about the new roles because those new roles, we still have to mess around with them. But let's start with the coroner. Coroner has one base. We're taking the entire update as a given. So I'm including the grace period, which is going to be a big factor in a lot of these indirect buffs and nerfs as a part of the video. So let's start with coroner. I think coroner was massively nerfed because of the grace period, because now you are more likely going to need to wait until day 4 until you actually interact with town in a meaningful way, meaning you're going to have to wait 6 to 8 minutes before you can even do anything, and another 2 minutes after that until you can actually interact with town. I think coroner did not deserve this nerf. I think that coroner definitely needs to be buffed in a meaningful way. Not to mention that it was also nerfed by Socialite rework, because Socialite rework basically makes it so there is more of a chance for you to run into parties than not. Meaning now socialites will have to actually use their brain to add people to parties, which they will never do. There is no reason for Socialite to add people to the party. Let's talk about Investigator. Investigator has been a little bit of a buff and a little bit of a nerf because of 2 roles. 2 reasons. The grace period night 1 and the Socialite. Like in Coroner's case, the Socialite nerf is going to be a big part of the factor that I'm going to say that things are either slightly stronger or slightly weaker. And this is slightly weaker because of the Socialite, because you are more likely going to run into Socialites. Now, the reason why it's a little bit stronger is because the odds of you finding somebody trespassing goes up by a little bit, basically because of not just the Investigator, Sheriff too, but both of them have the odds of finding Coven in a more meaningful manner because of the grace period. Grace period means no book. No book means you're going to be caught as a Coven member. Lookout. Lookout is slightly stronger. No camo means you can find other lookouts. It's also slightly weaker because it means that other roles that can fake lookout are going to have an easier time faking lookout, but I think it's all in the package deal, and I think that's fine. Psychic is slightly weaker because of the Socialite. Other than that, nothing really. Seer, same thing. Socialite now has multiple parties, and you're never going to be invited to them. Sheriff, same thing as the Investigator, but your odds of finding Coven does go up. So instead of it being an average of 3 out of 14, the average goes up to a 4 out of 14 that you're going to run into Coven. So it's basically up to a 1 out of 3 odds of you finding somebody suspicious in grace period specifically. Spy. Here's a hot take. I think it's slightly stronger now because evils survive longer, and Spy is going to have a easier time finding evils the longer it lives. Obviously, we're not talking about cases where roles die. We're talking about cases where roles live. The longer the game takes, the more Spy becomes useful. Tracker, it's just easier because a similar situation to Spy. Roles last longer, you're more likely to find liars. Now we're going to go into the town protectives. Bodyguard feels weaker because of Socialite, but other than that, it's the same. With one slight buff with the grace period, because that means there's no more reason to self-night 1. You can not self-night 1, you can self-night 2, self-night 3. That's 3 days that you basically live guaranteed. You're making it to day 4 because night 1, no need, night 2, night 3, and then you're there in day 4. The odds of you making it to day 4 bumped up by a lot in grace period. Same thing with Cleric, but you're not making it to day 4 guaranteed, you're making it to day 3 guaranteed. Same thing with Oracle, but Oracle basically is slightly better because that it always bypasses a party because it's an astral defense. Trapper. Once again, Socialite nerf. I'm always going to mention it throughout the video because this is the theme of the update. The Socialite. Socialite now has parties that basically stop everybody all the time. Another slight buff is in grace period for Trapper because now Trapper spends night 1 building their trap, and night 2 that matters, that's when they can strike with their TP lookout trap. because no longer does Trapper need to, pray to God that they don't get called up on day 2. They can just claim TP. There's no longer going to be a TP lookout meta in Grace Period. Veteran, no need to vet bait on day 1, meaning you can start being pushy day 2 and get more information in Grace Period. Other than that, you're pretty much the same as before. Trickster, because of its TP-ness, I think it is slightly weaker thanks to the Socialite, but other than that, it is also weaker because now in order to be effective as a TK, you need to wait until night 3. Because night 1, nothing, night 2, you gain an attack, night 3 is when you release. Games take longer, but that's just how it is. Deputy, it feels stronger because we're going to talk about the Jailer later, but basically, due to how things turn out with the game, a lot of evils are going to feel a lot more comfortable to open claim. And that's when Deputy can shine. Not to mention the fact that Deputy is going to be the first person to kill in the game. Deputy and Conjurer. Vigilante feels pretty much the same. Even with the Socialite, you're always not wanting to kill somebody, You're always hoping to not need to kill. Unless you're like 100% certain, because the people who are acting suspicious are never going to get a Socialite on them. You can attack them, and the people who you attack, just to do something, click a button, I don't know, if they have a Socialite on them, then you don't lose your attacks, and that's pretty cool. Admirer feels stronger. Losing the lifelink made it automatically 2 points stronger without even thinking. I think Admirer is very strong. Amnesiac feels slightly weaker in Grace Period because now you have to wait until day 3 before you get a roll in most cases. Retributionist feels the same, more or less, because at night 1, sure, you're not going to have anything to do and there's not going to be any dead. Retributionist was always a late game hitter. It was never an early game hitter, which is what makes Retributionist Retributionist. Socialite feels stronger, but it nerfs everyone but itself. That's just how it is. I'm sorry, not sorry. That's just how it is. Tavern Keeper feels slightly buffed because Poisoner will always prefer to claim and use their Socialite abilities over using their rollblock, even though Poisoner will always have the option to rollblock. Both are good, but Tavern Keeper is going to be more legitimate to the town because that Poisoners are less likely to use their role blocking abilities. Next up, Jailer, same as Deputy. More evils are going to open claim, more evils are going to get executed. Obviously, you lose a little bit of the ability to defend people because of how astral attacks now work and how war now goes through bars. Other than that, I think Jailer is still stronger because it's still good. Marshall feels the same as Jailer because it is very easy for Marshall to just pop out and get rid of 2 people who are acting openly honest. 6 and 9 are both claiming to be Coven and Plague Bearer respectfully, and they're saying this guy is Coven and that guy is Coven and this guy has defense and that guy has defense. It's just easy to get rid of both of them, Mayor still feels stronger because of the fact that it has 2 things going for it. First of all, I still consider the fact that it can be healed by a cleric and an oracle to be a buff. Every time they don't revert it, I think it's a buff to the mayor. But regardless, in the TT hunt, it can no longer gain votes. So you can just claim to be mayor. The moment the TT hunt starts, you review yourself as mayor, and the town is more likely going to trust you because you're just revealed you don't get more votes. I think that makes mayor slightly stronger in an indirect way, because now people can say, listen, I'm mayor, you can all see I'm mayor, I can't gain any votes, all I am is basically confirmed mayor. I am not an arsonist, I am not a plague bearer, I am not a baker. That makes mayor slightly better. Monarch slightly stronger because it can no longer protect death and other roles that want to be protected, and it basically did not need that buff in Season 4. Prosecutor feels the same as Jailer. Only problem is obviously Jester, but it is what it is. Coven Leader. Coven Leader feels weaker for some reason. Doesn't feel like the dynamic of game changed because that you're still going to try to retrain whoever you can to whatever roles you can. But the biggest issue is that just because you can't have Coven killings anymore doesn't mean that you can't have other better Coven that will still pretty much roll the entire game. You're about to see pretty much every single Coven leader retrain themselves into Witch or Hexmaster if there's already a Witch, because Hexmaster can just take the book and astrally kill everybody. Like, that is also a pretty decent option, because that Hexmaster with book is basically like Illusionist. Sure, you're not going to kill somebody with a trap or with a bodyguard, but you're definitely going to just not care. Next up, Hexmaster. Feel stronger. Astral bypasses jail, which is like we said before with Coven Leader. So it's definitely going to become a consideration when you're going to be passing the book around, because let's just say the jailer decides to protect the marshal. Fine, give the Hexmaster the book, let them just kill the marshal through the bars. Which is going to become a problem in the game now, because that CL is basically going to retrain themselves into Witch all the time. Witch or Potion Master, it depends on the mood of the CL, but you're going to see a lot of Witches, 100%. And it's basically going to be rampant in Season 5. That's basically what's going to happen. I don't know if that's what they intended. I don't know if that's what they thought would happen, but it's definitely going to happen. I'm seeing it in games already. Next up, we have the Conjurer. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the Conjurer as the role. I'm talking about Conjurer as the dynamic in the game. And Conjurer definitely feels weaker in the dynamic of the game. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I don't mean that Conjurer as a role is weak. Conjurer as a role is still S tier. The problem with Conjurer is it's harder to spawn in, so it's going to be a less reliant role. Even after you kill, you're always going to prefer to give the book to somebody who can do something extra with it, like the Medusa, or let's just say the Hexmaster, who's now going to be extremely reliable because it's going to be a role that's going to bully the jailer. These are just thoughts that I have about the Conjurer. It's no longer an optimal book holder. It's definitely a great role, but the biggest problem with Conjurer is it blocks Coven Leader from retraining Coven Power, or basically, you're not going to be able to introduce easily Ritualists. No one's trying to introduce Jinx. Nobody. Next up we're going to talk about is the Jinx. And the Jinx is a lot weaker now. Extremely weaker, to the point that it's actually a bad role, and I'll explain why. Now that there's a lot of mutual exclusiveness within Coven priority, meaning you cannot have more than one Coven killing in the game, you spawn in with a Jinx and a Coven leader, you are out of luck, because that means no conj, no writ, and town will know exactly if somebody dies to Jinx. Even if Jinx doesn't get caught, they still know that it's safe to full claim. The Doomsayer does not bully the town as much as the Ritualist does. Sure, Doomsayer kills and they leave, but Doomsayer also gets Coven on the way. We're definitely going to pick to fear the Ritualist more than the Doomsayer. It's definitely a bad dynamic in my opinion. I just think that Jinx now cucks Coven. That's just how it is. Ritualist, even with the nerf, it doesn't really see much of a change, because once again, you're always trying to get one or two people dead. Actually, the more I think about it, Ritualist doesn't really change, because a Hexmaster's astral attack makes it so you can still kill people in jail, or astral attacks, meaning that the socialite is going to be a problem, but roles like the Ritualist and the Hexmaster basically bypass it 100%. The more I think about it now, Hexmaster is even better, because with Socialite out there, you just kill with the Hexmaster. Hexmaster has basically got to choose it, to be a killer or go for the bomb. And going for the bomb is basically going to be one of those things where you're going to have to choose. Definitely going for the bomb isn't a bad option, but being just a vanilla killer that cannot be detected is pretty good. Next up, Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver feels a little bit stronger, because well, not stronger as a role, but more like it's always going to be prioritized to change it to Necromancer, PM, or etc. Like, seeing a Dreamweaver means you can basically mess around with it. It doesn't feel like it's changed much, but in that aspect, having to turn Dreamweaver into other roles is going to be a bigger priority, because you're less likely going to see Coven Leader prioritizing turning a CPOW into Coven killing. You're going to see a lot more roles being mixed around within the Coven that aren't Coven killing. Next up, Enchanter. Feel strong. Always did. Didn't change. I like it. Illusionist. I'm going to say something. Illusionist still feels the same type of strong because that it does everything that it did before, which is bypass traps and bodyguards. But especially now, you're always looking for a book holder. And if you don't have the Hex Master and you don't have a Medusa, you're basically looking for like the Illusionist. It's pretty good. And plus, Illusionist can always claim with the Potion Master and basically go on each other or something like that. Like, that's a dynamic that I can definitely see happen. Medusa, same as before, strong book holder. Next up, we have the Necromancer. Necromancer feels stronger because it has more plays. It just does. You can spam Socialite, Dead Socialite on whoever you want and claim to be a Socialite. Like, you have plays. You really do have plays. Oh, and by the way, Necromancer doesn't need to care about knowing who visited because it just doesn't really need to know. Poisoner feels stronger, has more plays, and it basically has a lot of Socialite claim space. It's also pretty good to deal with the Veteran, don't get me wrong. Next up, we're going to talk about the role that, in my opinion, got buffed in the highest manner indirectly, and that's going to be the Potion Master. And Potion Master has the strongest claim now. It can claim Admirer, because it can just walk around revealing people without being caught. And the moment that it finds somebody, it can just start either spamming heals on itself and a Coven member claiming to be lovers. It has so much versatility claim space-wise. I think Potion Master got the highest buff with the introduction of the Admirer. I think the Admirer made the Potion Master to be just way too good. You're going to see Potion Masters claiming Admirer 100%. And it's a good play, and I've done it myself, and it works. It 100% works. Next up, Voodoo Master, my hot take. Voodoo Master is the strongest Coven in the game because basically the way Voodoo Master works is you silence someone, they can't vote. A lot of people don't realize just how strong it is. That is basically a +1 kill with a -1 vote. And many times you can take the dynamic going from day 2, day 3 dynamic can go all the way up to day 4, day 5 dynamic vote-wise because of how Voodoo Master works. Let's just say Coven managed to get 2 kills at night 1 with the Jinx and the Coven killing and the Voodoo Master all work. Then suddenly the dynamic of the town goes down from 15 to 13. There are 4 Coven alive. It's a lot easier to convince 8 people than it is to convince 9. It really is. Next up, we have Wildling. Stronger because it has more time to pick plays, and because it's seen, then it gets the ability to pick if I'm going to be a investigator, a tracker, or straight up lookout. It has that ability to pick because that Wildling is always a tracker, lookout, or invest. Invest is just a no-brainer because having the ability to track means you know where they go, you know that they trespassed or not. Next up, Doomsayer, because people are going to be more blatant with their claims because that there's going to be less ritualists, and evils are going to want, especially Coven, are going to want to claim if somebody has defense or not because that they don't have the Death Note anymore. Easily got buffed. Still my favorite role in the game. Powerful role, great role. Executioner didn't change at all. Jester feels stronger because it has the ability to claim a Coven member that, let's say, 9 has defense. You just have to people pray that there is no deputy and there is no jailer. The rest of them, there's no real reason for, and vigilantes, obviously. Other than that, people are just going to leave you alone. Your basically 3 threats are vigilante, jailer, and deputy, with deputy being your #1 threat. Next up, arsonist, due to how Socialite works, feels weaker. No way around it. The new Socialite stops movement. So any role that is 100% based off of movement gets weaker. Serial Killer gets weaker for 2 reasons. Socialite, and because that it is more likely to hit into defense because that Apocalypse got its defense back. At least in a certain way. Shroud feels stronger because Astro is worth more. All you need to do is just Shroud the Socialite and just kill. Werewolf feels stronger because Werewolf is always trying to hide. So if you know that the Socialite is going to go on 7, then you go on 7. I don't remember if you stay home or not. If it's considered a visit, then Socialite absorbs the rampage, and then you can be visited and nothing will happen. You kind of want that because you're trying to make it to the later parts of the game. And if it doesn't, then kind of sucks because you do not want to be rampaging at home. Rampaging at home can be a weakness. And even if you get stopped by Socialite Night 1 with your sniff, by the way, you're still good with that because you want to vaguely claim. You don't want to fully claim. I think it's interesting. Next up, we're going to talk about Baker, Plague Bearer, Berserker, and Soul Collector. So Baker, all of them get automatically stronger due to Apocalypse getting their defense back when you're down to 1. That's just how it is. But because you're a movement-reliant role who gains no information, still weaker. Berserker, stronger. Doesn't matter what. You're always trying to hide the fact that you exist, but if you can kill, go right ahead. Have fun with it. Berserker right now is the strongest attacker in the game. Direct attacker. It always was. It is stronger than Werewolf because that Werewolf has the weakness of getting caught. Berserker has a better chance of not getting caught. Next up, Plague Bearer. Defense makes it stronger, but overall, it is a weaker role because that with movement being halted, you basically have less of a chance to spread your plague. And Plague Bearer needs movement. Beforehand, don't get me wrong, Plague Bearer was able to cheese that because people were getting added to the guest list, and then people were just visiting. Next up, Soul Collector didn't change at all except the gaining of the defense. I think that's good. The fact that Soul Collector right now didn't have defense was a crime. It has defense, has a better chance of getting 7 souls, even though it sucks. Getting 7 souls is kind of terrible. Now for the next 4, they're upgraded versions. I'm not going to talk about if they're stronger or weaker. I'm going to talk about if they're scarier or not scarier. Famine feels scarier. War feels scarier. Pestilence, not so scary. And Death, not so scary. Because that Pest and Death basically got all of their abilities paused, and it takes longer to get there. Famine and War needs to get there by day 5. If you can't turn into Pest and Death by day 5, you're weak. And I'm not talking about as a player, I'm talking about as a role. Next up, we have the last 2 roles that were in the game, and now they have a little bit more going for them. And those are the Vampire and the Cursed Soul. So the Vampire feels stronger because that more players are bound to stay in the game, because that you don't do nothing. You're not just a potato. You're an actual faction. You're a sheriff who was converted. You're a vigilante who was converted, etc., etc. I think that makes the Vampire faction and role better. Not to mention the fact that Vampire as solo gets defense, so at least it's not like, you know, a sitting duck. Next up, we have the Cursed Soul. Cursed Soul is definitely not going to be categorized as stronger or weaker role because that it is a role in specific game modes. So I'm going to say if it's fun or not fun, and it is definitely fun. But the problem with Cursed Soul is it always spawns in 1 or 2. It won't spawn in with more than that. So it's a lot harder to actually play it as a faction. Even though with 2 it is very fun, you still have to actually roll into it. It's not enough to just have it in the game. You have to become the Cursed Soul. And I think that makes the role a little harder to justify as good or bad. I think it's either fun or not fun, and you're basically playing roulette if you're going to have fun or not. The last part I'm going to say is about the update itself. Is it good or bad? Well, beforehand, I'm going to say because it's a July update, that means you're going to get a lot of people who are out of school who are going to be playing a lot more. Those people are usually newer and inexperienced players. So remember, it's going to be a lot more fun for experienced players, and it's going to be very frustrating for new players. And they have to decide if they're going to stick it out or not. So it's everybody's job here to make sure that they have a good time. That's the whole point of the game. The end goal of the game is to have a good time. If you're not having a good time, then there's no point to play. This is why I did not enjoy Season 4 that much. Season 5 is good. Season 5 is good at the moment. I may change my mind later because, you know, I'm human and I can become frustrated with the state of the game. That is very possible, but I don't think that will happen. This feels like a good update. The final scoring of this update is a 9 out of 10. It really is. It added so much good stuff for all any. Anyways, have fun. That's the most important thing.